Now, the most reasonable talk show host from Sob Choppy to the Redneck Riviera, here is Bob Kerrigan.
Good evening and welcome again to Within Reason. Bob Kerrigan tonight with Bill Rankin, and we're going to be talking about all kinds of interesting things tonight. Got a California legislator who wants to tax pot and sell pot. Now, Bill, why wouldn't that be a good idea? Sell it in liquor stores if people want to buy pot. I mean, it's commonplace. It's every place.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, why shouldn't the government make some money taxing like they do liquor? What's wrong with it?
I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, just because something's stupid and a bad idea like smoking pot or drinking a lot of booze or Krispy Kreme donuts doesn't mean the government should forbid it.
Well, now
you know? Yeah, now I've insulted everybody.
Well, I could go
just
with it
as a rule
until Krispy Kreme, which I like those.
A lot of
Krispy
fried
Kreme.
dough full of sugar.
Well, no, I like that's a good donut. I mean, you can't say Krispy Kreme is like smoking pot.
No.
Okay, I mean,
No.
it's not like drinking whiskey.
But listen, I personally don't think it's a good idea to eat a lot of donuts. But I don't think it's any of the government's business. And you think, well, what are you talking about? Is this some straw man in New York? Mayor Bloomberg is kind of a nanny, and he said trans fat is bad for you, so you shouldn't have trans fat, and they banned it.
I agree with that, though. I totally
agree with banning it?
I agree with banning it. It's harmful to people. Why would you do it?
People are getting fat because they won't exercise. And
well, it's not the fat. It's bad for your system. It's not just fat. I mean, it's destructive of your system, isn't it? I mean, there's all kinds of health consequences.
Beer's not good for you.
Oh,
a lot of things are not good for you. Well, beer actually is good for you. Let me take that back, because if you go to Ireland, it says Guinness is good for you, and I believe that. But my point is, none of this is any of the government's business. You know?
Well, let's go back to the pot. I mean, the government is going to regulate alcohol, constitutionally going to regulate alcohol, so why couldn't we regulate pot? Why can't they sell pot?
I don't see why not, because apparently, and some people actually who I'm related to make this point all the time, apparently there's no way to overdose on pot, and people are dying of liquor overdoses all the time, and the argument their argument is, well, it's no worse than alcohol, meaning that they ought to be free to do it. That is not a good argument, but I don't think it's the kind of thing that the government should have any business regulating.
So we got another pot guy on the phone. Steve, are you there?
Yeah.
All right, what's your view about the pot?
Well, I think the marijuana would basically create a whole lot of jobs for people that we need right now, and it would also help to pay on the deficit. It would help to pay on things for needy people that need medical treatments and stuff.
You know what's interesting?
It probably would. If people are going to smoke pot, anyway, we had the Volstead Act. We had an amendment that banned alcohol, and it didn't work because too many people wanted it. And why shouldn't pot be treated the same? Maybe it's because of the liquor industry. Maybe it's pure politics, which explains most things. But I think from a medical standpoint, there really isn't any more reason to ban pot than there is to ban alcohol, and we know that didn't work.
Well, one of the problems about the comment you made, and we've seen it locally, is that the government, desperate for tax revenues because the tax base is contracting, any cockamamie, half-baked, goofy scheme that anybody thinks up that claims it's going to provide jobs, like good-paying card-dealing jobs at the poker room, will get it done, and the government will approve it. Local governments will approve it. Well, we got a caller that's holding. Here, Jim, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, you're up.
Right now, with Mexico's government failing due to the drug cartels, it seems like it'd be mighty reasonable to legalize the pot. And like you say, people are going to do it anyway. But go ahead and legalize it, and the taxes we make off of it, turn around and use it to fight cocaine.
Well, this guy in California has introduced legislation to legalize it. I covered that story earlier. I don't know where I put it.
And, well, what about this argument, Jim? Well, it's a gateway. I mean, once you start with pot, then people will go to cocaine. And
No,
the
your
statistics
gateway
are,
to alcohol.
Yeah.
Alcohol.
No, I agree with you. The gateway argument is kind of flawed because most.
Listen to these numbers. The biggest boon might be to the bottom line. By some estimates, of course, again, attribution to sources is always a question. California's pot crop is a $14 billion industry, putting it above vegetables, $5 to $7 billion, and grapes, $2.6 billion. If so, that could mean upward of $1 billion in tax revenue for the state each year.
No, wait a minute. You just talked about you had a moral argument against gambling.
Right.
And now wouldn't legalizing pot mean you have more people walking around stoned and driving stoned and causing accidents and, contributing to the breakup of families and all kinds of moral decay because the potheads are laying around being unproductive because you've legalized it?
I'd rather have them than your right-wing preachers and the other people in your party, if I had a choice. You have any other comments?
No, that's it. I sure appreciate
How many
it.
logical fallacies in that statement? And we're going to have a contest.
Y'all have a good night.
All right. Thanks very much. All right.
All these things are a matter of balance. Nobody's for selling heroin out of vending machines. And so you strike a balance, but no sensible person is saying, well, no adult ought to be able to drink beer. And so you try to strike a balance between government's role in keeping people safe and government's role to model moral behavior and these other things we've been talking about. What goes wrong is when self-interest gets involved and distorts the argument, because there's always an argument. There's a legitimate argument. We need jobs, we need tax revenues, we're going to have jobs. That's an appealing argument, but what distorts it is the politics involved, the self-interest on the part of the promoters, and then the deals made whereby politicians benefit.
Emery, you're up on the pot story.
Hey, good evening,
Hi.
you guys.
Good evening.
I'm not pro or against pot, but I just wanted to say one statement regarding marijuana is that a lot of people don't realize it, but tobacco products take a great deal of effort to produce, distribute, and sell. The taxes that our country and our state makes off of this is unbelievable. Marijuana can be grown in a potted plant in your home.
Right.
And if they legalize it, the
that's a
government
good
won't
point.
make any money off of it anyways because
That's a
people will
good
be growing it on their
point.
own, where they can't do that with tobacco products.
Yeah, well, I think
Nobody
it's an
I
understands
guess you
excellent,
can.
that.
that's
So
an
you
excellent
can
point.
you can grow pot in your home, and all you need to do then is dry it out and roll it up and smoke it, huh?
Right. You don't have any production costs. There's
Yeah.
nothing you have to do. There's no seasoning to it other than to get it dried out.
Right, and you need
people
a
don't
light in
realize
your
that.
attic to do it, right?
But
Yeah.
what really upsets me a great deal is that our state and our government is depending on getting more taxes and putting a dollar tax
That's
on tobacco
interesting.
products per pack. And then when people finally quit smoking, which if I get a job, I'm unemployed right now, but if I do get a job, their minimum requirement is no nicotine products are to be used, whether it's chewed tobacco or what have you. You cannot use a tobacco product, period. So the revenue that the taxes are, that state thinks and the federal government thinks are going to take in or paying for education and whatnot are going to end up going bankrupt because if everybody quits smoking, now they don't have the revenue coming in, and the health insurance companies won't cover them either.
Yeah, the government is definitely on both sides of that issue.
Oh, my goodness.
Absolutely.
For years, this is a problem we ran into in the tobacco litigation. For years, Florida made their own cigarettes in the prison.
That's right.
and they manufactured their own cigarettes and sold them to the poor inmates in prison. This is Within Reason. Bob Kerrigan and Bill Rankin. Mr. Rankin's opinions are not my own, and they're not the opinions of anybody that I know. We're glad to have you with us. We'll be back next Wednesday at this same time, and thanks for watching. Good night.
Good night.